Hello and welcome to another cat fantasy video. Yes, another cat fantasy video. Uh, you may be confused. You may be wondering, well, why is he uploading another video the next day? Doesn't he usually just make new videos when a new character releases or something like that? Well, funnily enough, one day into the patch, yeah, they put Fawn's banner up. So here I am yet again. Uh, we obviously this video we are going to be this whole video is going to be devoted to going over Fawn, her kit, various interactions that she has, her teams. Should you pull her? What star ups should you look for? This will probably be a lengthier video. Fawn is a very complicated character. I don't even have my full verdict on this character yet. I'm just sharing my findings from testing her, seeing how her interactions work, and playing her in Nightmare's Call. A little bit of event content. Played her in Clan Campaign as well. So I've got a foundation going for her, right? Also, Battle Pass updated today. Triss Sideline Spotlight is now available. Unfortunately, she's not obtainable in the. Did I get these today? Yeah. She is not obtainable in the core shop. She's also not in the standard banner pool. If you look through here. What this means is, at the moment, whether intended or not, the only way that you can get copies of her is by doing the Scam Dice event. Do not do the Scam Dice event. Triss is decent. She's not worth doing this scam event that gives you really crappy material rewards. And like I said, I don't know if it was just foresight on their end to forget to update the core shop, or if they're really trying to push this horrible scam of an event. It's not going to work on me. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I'm good, Alex. I don't need to play your games. But anyways, let's talk about Fawn, right? Where is she? There she is. So Fawn is a white pathos buffer. She appears as a Luminox banner who we had the Minotaur Luminox banner, right? And then we had 1 day of peace. And now we have another Luminox banner for 5 weeks. They gave us the back-to-back treatment. Hopefully they don't start doing Luminox banners every patch, because these are very expensive. But I'll try to keep my opinions out of this in regards to that as much as possible. So yeah, she's a white pathos buffer. There's a lot going on with her kit. I'll kind of go over how various abilities of her interact with certain mechanics in the game as I go through that ability, right? And then, we'll kind of just go from there and I'll break it down. So first of all, we have her passive, Rain of Blessings. Increase all allies' crit damage by 20%. Scales up to 30% at 5 stars. At the start of combat, activate Endless Shower for 3 turns. Endless Shower, and this will be more important for later into her kit, but Endless Shower is a neutral effect. It is not considered a buff or debuff. It appears as yellow on your buff bar. Endless Shower is an effect where all ally damage dealt is increased by 20% when exploiting Pathos advantages, and it accumulates 30% of the healing effect from Fawn. And this accumulated amount will persist even if Endless Shower expires. So, Pathos, 20% increased damage when exploiting Pathos advantages. This is worded differently from, but works the exact same as Twin Shadows Triss, and with her 4-star effects. Elemental counter effects increased by 15%, although this is whenever an ally is attacked as well. This just simply affects the allies' damage, but from that point of view, it is the exact same effect. Just to be clear, this is pretty much whenever your combatant's Pathos color would deal bonus damage to the enemy Pathos color, that your damage will be increased by 20%. right? So if you are red, you will deal 20% more damage when attacking green. If you're green, you'll deal 20% more damage when attacking blue. When you're blue, you'll deal 20% more damage when attacking red. Now, it gets a little more complicated with light dark. So, Black Pathos deals 20% increased damage to all the other Pathos types. That means as long as a Black Pathos combatant is not attacking a Black Pathos enemy, they can be attacking white, green, red, blue, right? And they will gain this 20% damage bonus. For white, it's 10% damage and 10% less damage taken from the other four Pathos colors. So if a white Pathos ally is attacking a red, blue, green, or black Pathos enemy, they will gain this damage bonus. Sorry for the coughing. I'm still sick, and I want to do this in one take. All right. Skill 1, Sun Deluge. Restores HP to the ally with the lowest HP percentage based on 108% of her attack. Applies steady restoration and applies life-giving rain to the target based on 108% attack. So it is one turn of steady restoration for reference, but that's fine when you consider life-giving rain. So life-giving rain is a buff effect where for the next 2 turns, buffs will not consume their turn duration. So the next so that the end of the turn that this is activated and at the end of the next turn, any buffs that your allies have will not tick down. This will generally affect any buff with a duration. There are very, very few exceptions, but pretty much a lot of the things that you're thinking of, this will work with. This will extend. This works with shields. This works with Viola's crit buff. This works with Felicia's crit buff. This works with her own steady restoration. This works with vanilla buffs. This works with Submarine Shiro's buffs. This also works with various Katos. So, for example, Abracadabra. The start of battles increase offensive stats by 5% for 3 turns. Yep, she prolongs that too. So keep that in mind when team building with her. Let me see, where'd you go? There you are. So yeah, generally, pretty much any buff that's commonly used. The one thing that we found that won't be affected is Sage's damage reduction buff off of her tailored treatment. This is because the duration of that is tied to the tailored treatment effect itself, which is a neutral effect. And also going back to her passive, endless shower being a yellow effect, right? A neutral. This will not extend that either. So then the question begins: what happens when this expires? Well, just keep staying tuned, and we'll find out. So, and the most important part: if endless shower is active, this effect will spread to all allies. So everybody will get healed, everybody will get steady restoration, everybody will get life-giving rain and buff extension. Very cool. Skill 2, Lightning Strike. Deal 108% attack as damage to one enemy and inflicts Purify. Again, if Endless Shower is active, the damage and debuff will spread to all enemies. Purify debuffs, except action restrictions, do not consume their turn duration for the next 1 turn. Okay, do keep in mind if you star this up, it'll go up to 2 turns, just like the buff card. So basically, any debuffs that are on the enemy that are timed, besides ones that don't allow enemies to act, most notably this includes Fear. This also includes Silence, although I don't know if there's anybody that even inflicts that. That's playable, but who knows? But pretty much everything else is fair game. Vulnerability gets extended. Felicia's branch gets extended, both the branch effect as well as the final damage taken debuff. Viola's defense reduction gets extended as well. Curse gets extended. Burning gets extended. And probably the most insane revelation about this will also extend the duration of spread. And that will become very prevalent when we discuss team building for Fawn. Now we have her ultimate, Rainfall Burst. This is a lot simpler of an ability by comparison. So you deal surge damage to all enemies based on 173% of her attacks, scales up to 246 at 6 stars. And the accumulated healing from Endless Shower. So basically, while you're in Endless Shower, there is a counter on her that's also a neutral effect that will count how much she has healed. And then when you ult, whatever amount has accumulated will be added on top of this damage. And then afterwards, the accumulated healing number will be cleared to 0, and then Endless Shower will be activated for 3 turns. If Endless Shower is already active, it will raise the duration to 3 turns. And then Surge Damage is a new damage type. You deal 1% bonus damage for every 1% of your current HP that you have, capped at 80% bonus damage if Fawn is at 80% HP or higher, right? So basically, this is how you extend your passive. You initially get 3 turns. This is how you get her abilities to AoE. This is how you get that juicy 20% damage bonus. Once that runs out, all of those features are gone, and the only way to get it back is to use her ultimate ability. So let's see what her star up effects enable from her. 1 star. At the start of battles, gains 2 SP. Well, that's clearly useful because you're going to want to have your ultimate up by turn 4 so that you can refresh the endless, the endless shower effect, right? And then while Endless Shower is active, all allies get a 30% increase in healing power. Cool. Not as important, but a nice bonus. 4 stars. The steady restoration effect applied by Fawn triggers immediately when the bearer takes damage. So pretty much, no matter what, if an ally gets attacked, they get steady restoration. This effect occurs up to once per turn. The healing done by this proc of steady restoration will not count towards her accumulated healing for her passive. And more importantly, the damage increase provided from Pathos Advantage provided from Endless Shower is doubled to 40%, which is insane. And then 6 stars. After using Rainfall Burst, retains 30% of the accumulated healing from Endless Shower, and randomly gains 1 to 3 SP. Why is this random? Who knows? Gotta love having RNG. Love it. So anyways, the question always is, should you pull? To sum it up, it really depends. If this was like a red, green, blue, non-Luminox unit, I'd be like, hell yeah, roll her. She's great. And she is great. She's really good. She's near universal. She has excellent utility, both passively and actively. And she enables a lot of teams, and she even enables different archetypes altogether. The only problem is she's a Luminox banner, and she's expensive to get. And it's not like Minotaura, where you can just get her, and then you have a broken DPS for all content, and then you can just kind of have like low investment supports to just feed her, right? Fawn is not a damage dealer. Fawn is a support. So do keep that in mind. Obviously, supports in gacha games are generally future-proof. So there's that going for her, but at the same time, it's difficult to justify investing a lot of red orbs into a support at the same time. It's going to be one of those, if you have the means, I would definitely pull her. Like, besides Fifi, I don't really see anything else that you should really pull. Like, there's Loco, she's cursed. Loco more like Choco, right? She doesn't do anything. And then they have Tara Simon, who comes in 2 weeks. And I mean, you could wait, right? Because the banner lasts 5 weeks. Maybe Tara Simon's like the messiah for Curse. And maybe history gets rewritten. I mean, who knows, dude? Honestly. At this point, who knows? But what I know is that if you have the luxury of having a lot of spare pulls after Fifi, after Crown Banner, after Minnow, after all of these quote unquote must pulls that we've been enduring, then yes, I would pull her. I would not recommend pulling out the credit card unless you are an actual whale and you have the means to just be able to throw your disposable income, right? I can't really advise. Don't spend what you can't afford, right? And if you have to skip out on Fawn, it's not going to be the end of the world, you know. Fawn doesn't complete any teams really. She's not like a necessary piece for any team. She's a win more luxury unit who's going to help people do better in leaderboards, right? And be able to push higher damage values. But Fawn, at the end of the day, is not somebody who is going to make or break your account. So do keep that in mind. That being said, Fawn is absolutely insane as a support, right? She pushes damage really, really high. Um, and now, let's kind of go over that. Let's kind of talk over some teams here and just kind of generally discuss what's going on. So the first team I kind of want to go over here and I kind of want to discuss is pretty much any spread variant involving Fawn. Because again, Fawn can extend spread, right? So this is probably just the most basic spread team that I can think of. Minotaura is a unit that abuses spread really well because she does really high single target damage and also does have AoE through soul stabbing when she's in her ult, as well as her ult detonation. Minotaura only really needs funnel. Viola is like the perfect slot in here because she funnels and she buffs crit damage, and Minotaura's Sunder. And then you have a Poppy Fawn duo going here, where for your active you would run a spread Kato, right? Pretty simple. You set up your Minnow ult, you drop your spreads, and then you just dump Minnow damage while trying to keep the spreads up for as long as humanly possible with Fawn cards. Now, this sounds great on paper. Now, in practice, you may have some consistency issues with getting everything that you need. Do keep in mind, right? Minotaura, Fawn, Poppy, they all kind of need to funnel their own SP. Fawn needs to get enough debuff extending cards to be able to keep the spreads up nonstop. So you might run into consistency issues, and you might run into scenarios where Minotaura loses out on ult detonations, which means that you're probably not doing as much damage. So if you don't like malding for the perfect run, I do have an alternative. Also, do keep in mind when you have two different sources of spread. So here you have Poppy and the spread Kato, right? When you have two different instances of spread, they don't. So the same spread from one unit will stack, right? So like, let's say you Poppy ult, you maintain it, and then you Poppy ult again, right? Then both of those will spread. If you Poppy ult and you Imp Kato, the same enemy, only one of those will count. So when you do spread, you want to put all your Poppy spreads on one enemy and all your Imp spreads on another enemy, which is why it's kind of better to play this variant with AoE, right? Um, because then you can proc both of those different units that have spread with the soul stabbings and the detonation. So double spread only really recommend for units with AoE. If you're playing units that are purely single target, or you are playing like you just don't want to deal with all of the BS that comes with having to perfectly optimize this run, hey, who needs Poppy, right? Don't tell Tifa I said that. but you can run something else, right? You can run Arena. She's a passive buffer. You could, hypothetically, and I always thought this was kind of sus to do, but you could, in this case, run Felicia. Because Fawn, with her buff extension, can keep both Viola and Felicia's crit buffs. She can juggle them and make them effectively permanent. It's a lot easier to juggle buffs than debuffs with her because her 1-star buff extension extends by 2 turns, while her debuff extension at 1 star is only 1 turn. Another great option, and probably the one I'll be going with when I don't want to sweat my ass off, Vanilla. Great. Funnels. Every time she funnels, she puts timed buffs on Minotaur, which Fawn can extend. Discovery is also great to have because, like, if you need a Fawn card to like keep spread or keep your buffs or something, like you can vanilla Discovery a Fawn card and still buff the Minnow, right? Like that's totally something that I've done before. So this variant will be a lot more consistent. Ceiling will probably be a little lower, but you're gonna love having your hair on your head by playing this version of the team. Now, there are other potential variants of being able to play this, right? So obviously we have 2 green single target engines here. You know, you have your old reliable, Shiro Asura here. Um, Again, double spread is redundant. They're both single target, so it's not gonna really do that much. Um, the general option is just going to be Manami. If you need more sustain, I would advise Arena. If you're a whale or a spender, Eleanor is also really good. These 3 kind of quick swap together really well. Obviously, do keep in mind in these teams, Fauna's Astra. So if your Shiro's now at least 4 stars, she's kind of going to be more of a sub DPS. Because her passive won't activate, right? Uh, and then obviously another green team that's great with this. Delilah Garfield, right? Great. Again, purely single target, so generally you're going to want to run Arena. Shiro could work if you have a whale Shiro. The problem is, like, juggling cards between Shiro, Fawn, and Delilah. Oh, brother. I mean, if you can, if it is feasible, by all means, but, you might find yourself in a weird situation here in terms of card economy. Fawn can also be a great passive buffer in teams that just kind of have an open spot. So Jinquei teams, right? You could run like Fawn with, Felicia Fada. Card economy actually isn't a problem here because Fawn can just keep Fata and Felicia buffs up permanently, right? And in this case, this would be a great chance to use Abracadabra, right? 5% crit rate, crit damage, attack, and armor pen. Like, that's great for Jinquei. And Jinquei, it's a single carry team. You can't really use other stuff well. Do keep in mind there's going to be a bit of a consistency issue to the lack of funnel, but I mean, Red doesn't have any discovery units anyways. What are you going to do, shove a vanilla in there? It's not great, right? Because usually you're fighting green enemies. That vanilla is going to get beaten to a pulp. But, might be a little resetty, but not too bad. I mean, I don't think spread. I mean, you could run a spread Kato, right? You could totally run a spread Kato in this. I wouldn't run double spread though. I feel like Felicia and Fodder are too important. um, Other red teams. I actually wouldn't slaughter in a black tea. I mean, you could, I guess, technically, like you could do. You could run this. Actually, wouldn't be. The problem is, again, the card economy. Oof, card economy is not great here. I would rather just run something more passive here, like an Arena or a Arena. I mean, Stacy is. I use Stacy in Clan Campaign technically, so like Fawn can technically work. You just have to make sure it's set up well. And I just think Fawn's better with other teams anyways. But you can run it. It's a damage increase. Just might be a bit of a consistency issue. And blue team. So one blue team that I drew up is just kind of running Fawn in a blue team. Now, the kind of crappy thing is there's not really like a great like third blue unit here. I think vanilla is the best thing. Again, I'd run Spread Cato here. Basically, Fawn is for the most part a passive buffer. She's keeping vanilla buffs going. She's keeping spread going, which will kind of help Marlena. You could try to like run double spread with this, although I feel like you won't have enough card economy to maintain these 4 units. So I would definitely much rather just run vanilla in this case, right? That's just my personal preference. Let me see here. Now, as far as other teams, because this team in particular actually doesn't really have a lot of, card usage requirements in general. I just have to find them. They're hiding. But essentially, it would be a vanilla Chocola team. Yeah, there we go. Vanilla Chocola Cacao Fawn. Right. So the reason why this would be decent is because Chocola doesn't really rely on using a whole lot of cards. Fawn can maintain vanilla buffs. Fawn can maintain Vuln. Fawn gives a nice damage bonus to the team. She's quite a decent fit into the vanilla Chocola team, actually. Now there is we're gonna start heading into slightly more whale territory here, because we are going to be discussing uh, light darks, right? So Selena, do 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 do. So when we are running a Selena team, right? So this is that scenario because again, Selena is a unit that doesn't need to use too many cards herself. Due to the nature of her buff card, she can actually just collect SP from other allies using their cards. I think that Selena is a decent team for Fawn to find her way in. You can run double spread with Fawn and Poppy. Viola's going to funnel Selena just fine. Viola's going to buff Selena just fine. Selena's going to have her buff, which is going to be prolonged by Fawn. Right? You're going to be able to prolong that attack buff from Poppy as well. You're going to have your spread going. You're going to have your imp going. Your Selena's going to ult. It's going to do pretty good damage because you have 2 instances of spread on 2 different enemies. Now, Selena's still not a great unit, but if you have Selena and you like playing her, definitely a great way to boost her. Now we're heading into Giga Whale territory. So there is a team that I have been piloting and playing and touting around for quite a bit, which is Twin Shadows Triss, right? So this team is very, very complicated because again, Triss scales with being able to. So Triss essentially scales with being able to have a bunch of shields, like stacking shields, and then getting big, big, big Devour cards off, right? That's her whole gimmick. We don't have Panda Kato, so we can't cheat. We pretty much have to play her game in order to get good damage out of her, right? The team before was Triss, Vanilla, Lynn, and you would usually run like Viola or Arena or something along those lines. And pretty much the goal was to get Lynn ult going. You would try to stack like Pretty in Pink plus Lynn Shield plus Popularity bonus Shield, and have Triss at 21 stacks of Yin Yang Harmony and have everything line up and just have these fat Triss Devours that come out. But obviously getting everything to line up just right was difficult because of shield durations. Well, now Fawn's in the game, so now things actually become a lot simpler. You just kind of set up, get into black form turn 1, and then you can just start spamming your shields down and using Fawn to make sure that they never expire. This makes the team insanely more consistent and really good at PvE bossing in general. Now, there's no room to run. I mean, you could run a spread Kato if you want, but there really isn't a lot of room to run like Poppy. There is no room to run Poppy. You need at least one funneler, or this comp falls apart. Because you need Triss to get enough Devours to take advantage of the shields. This gives you some liberties with exchanging out the passive Kato as well. Again, Abracadabra is definitely an option. There is another Kato that would, in theory, be really good, which unfortunately, is the only Kato that I do not own, which is Tutankhamun, which gives you a huge shield, but only for 3 turns. 40% is big. That's more than a 2-star Anya shield. But it only lasts for 3 turns. Well, guess who can extend that? That's right, Fawn. Because at the end of the day, when you're playing Fawn, buffs don't actually expire. So yeah, as you can see, Fawn can fit into basically any team. I would say some better than others. I would say out of these, the biggest winners from Fawn being in the game are Minotaura. Like, she needed to win more anyways. Triss is quite good with this. Jinquei is quite good with this. Like, pretty much a lot of meta DPSs are good with this. Funnily enough, even though she extends Curse, I really don't think she's great because A, Pathos counter damage is not affected, does not affect indirect damage. What are you gonna do, right? So yeah, the main problem with Curse is when you're dealing with indirect damage, right? You are dealing a flat source of damage at the end of the day, right? So like if I have 2 units for Pathos Resonance, I just have a Sylviette that literally does nothing. And I guess there's nothing, I guess there's no green enemies in the training hub. Okay, sure. So let me just demonstrate this on the event boss in that case. Okay, that's not the event boss. This is the event boss. Okay. Let's hope I don't get CP checked here. Okay, I don't. Okay, so basically, right, if I just do this, okay, cool, 23,000 damage, right? Remember that, 23,000 damage, right? It's a flat amount. Alright, now let's see what happens when we put Fawn in here. We get our passive, right? Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and, do the same attack. Oh, it actually... Oh, no. You know what that was? Fawn gives 6% attack. Okay, then. Yeah, so in Fawn's Pathos weapon, she gives 6% attack. That's why I went from 23 to 25,000. Just for reference, let's put in Arena here, who gives 9% attack. If it does more than 25,000, then obviously the passive isn't working, right? Just because I want to show that indirect damage is so picky that it's just not affected by anything. Yeah, so that did 27, right? Because Arena's passive gives more attack. And just for reference, when I say that Fawn is giving attack percent, that is coming from her Pathos Weapon passive right here. It's 3, and then you get it again at 5, so it's 6% attack, right? So, oh, cool. Fawn can extend curses. Even in her training trial, they shill her with Dorothy. The problem is, if you run Fawn in a curse team, these curse units, they have passives where you want everybody on your team to be red Pathos, and then they get huge indirect damage bonus, indirect damage increases. These passives are present on both Dorothy and Trixie, right? So she not only breaks both of those passives, but her passive, besides 6% attack, does not work with indirect damage. This is what curse teams are dealing. So curse is the one team that can't use Fawn that well at all. In fact, using Fawn will probably give you less damage than just running 4 red Pathos. So that's unfortunate. So if you pull Fawn, right? Let's say, let's go past the should you pull. How deep should you pull for her? Well, I would say that you would definitely want to get. I would definitely highly, 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 highly recommend 1 star. That 2 bonus SP makes maintaining her ult a lot easier. Then you'll be good for the first 6 turns. The only time where you're going to have an issue is during Nightmare's Call during those last 4 turns. But honestly, you could probably get an ult off on like turn 8 or something, even with that in mind. Now, if you're really looking to go, 4 stars is her best star up by far. Doubling her passive is absolutely insane. And then her 6 star is just really not that needed. Fonda's okay damage, not great damage. Like, you can't really make Fonda into a main carry. I mean, like a little bit, but she's just not that great at it. Because she has typeless AoE and then she has her ult, but you'd have to like chain ults constantly pretty much, which means you'd have to play Fawn Casino and try to get 3 SP refunds from her ultimate. But yeah, I would not recommend going for 6 stars unless you are a big Fawn fan like me. Um, 1 star to 4 stars is fine. Do keep in mind, Fawn is a unit that is very, very complicated, so there is going to be a lot of testing involved. So do keep in mind, as a disclaimer, everything that I just said and went over, this is from 1 day of playing Fawn and like 2 or 3 days of knowing that she exists and knowing her kit, right? So just keep that in mind, right? But other than that, that's pretty much it. I would assume. I mean, maybe we get Terra Simon next week, but that would be weird. I would assume we're not going to get Terra Simon for 2 weeks, so you shouldn't have to see me for a while. By then, I should be hopefully done with this cold so I can stop coughing while recording videos and I can stop sounding sick in these videos and I can stop straining my voice. But anyways, if you like the video, of course, again, like, comment, let me know. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Thank you so much for watching yet another video since I uploaded 2 days in a row. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.